Hey everyone, welcome back to Beat the Sheet, an Xbox Game Pass challenge. The only podcast aiming to complete every single one of the now over 400 titles that have been made available on Xbox Game Pass since the start of 2020. As always, I'm your host Andy Wood, and I'm joined by my co-host Josh.
How's it going, everybody?
Alright, so on this week's show, we'll be shining a light on Torchlight 3. We battle through a whole lot of Battlefield. And can Ubisoft ruin Star Wars to the same extent as EA? Let's find out.
They absolutely will, if not more so.
Can and will. So, how's your week been, Josh?
You know, it's passed on by. It's just another week. There's not been much in the way of new additions or leaving soon action recently, so had a bit of time. I've actually set myself a challenge within a challenge because I can't live off one challenge alone. I've decided I'm going to beat EA Play before the end of the year.
Wow.
That's the goal. Because if I beat that, then I can forget about that horrendous day where 80 games got added and killed my percentage. Then I'll only have myself to blame. I back up to where I was. So that's got to be the goal.
Yeah, I mean, the goal. You know, that seems somewhat doable until you realize that you would then have to play Mass Effect, which, you know, I just know you don't want to do.
I can't see it. I kind of want to do it because I saw you put down Mass Effect 2 as a 10 on the sheet, and I just want to rag into that.
That's fair. But I think you'll enjoy doing that.
But I don't know if I can actually play through 3 Mass Effect games or Dragon Age for that matter. But we'll see. We'll see how we go.
Fair. I guess the question is now, though, are you going to play the Mass Effect games in EA Play, or are you just going to pay for the remasters and count that as playing them? Because I'd feel a bit bad playing those original versions now with remasters due in a month.
Yeah, but the thing is, it doesn't really matter how much you polish the turd. The turd will remain. So, frankly, I don't think it's really matters at this point.
It's fair.
But yeah, how about yourself? What are you been up to?
Yeah, not too much this week, really. I'm as much as we were getting kind of our asses handed to us by the sheet in November and December, I really wouldn't mind a couple more games at the moment. Even just some Leaving Soon stuff, so we have to play those and talk about them. It's very, very quiet at the moment, so looking forward to more stuff coming up soon. Obviously, we've got a good few things already announced for the end of January, so that'll be nice. But yeah, other than that, just playing the stuff we need to play, playing some Battlefield for no reason. And what I did do this week actually is I watched the first 2 episodes of WandaVision on Disney Plus, which is surprisingly weird show. I'm really enjoying it actually. The first one was good and the second one was even better. So nice to see them just doing some really weird stuff there. Definitely worth a watch, I think.
Yeah, more weird Marvel properties. I think support it just so that these people with too much money can actually make some weird things.
Yeah.
Rather than the same movie 24 times. I like that same movie 24 times.
Oh, me too, yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think it's a great movie. But I would like slightly different tones occasionally. And yeah, let's throw back to the 40s and the 50s. Why not? I love those old movies and those old TV shows. So it's made for me. It's literally made for me. They might as well have put my picture on the drawing board when they said, who is this target demographic? It's pretty much me. So
I like to think head office of Disney, just make a show for this man for some reason. He's got a podcast about Xbox. I don't know. Just make him a show. Be good.
But yeah, no, I agree. It's a good show. I'll give it a watch. Yeah, definitely.
Right then. Anyway, let's get rolled into the new editions then.
Okay, so this week there has been one new addition and one graphical update for the Xbox Game Pass service. These are Torchlight 3, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order now has a Series S and X patch, which will apparently make it 60 frames per second on the Series S and X with dynamic resolution up to 4K 30 on the Xbox Series X, which is nice if you've not played it. It's a good game. Good game.
Yeah, I'd recommend it if you haven't played it yet. It's not one I'll be returning to. I did the entire game, so I just can't go back to it right now. But it's always nice to see stuff running at 60. That's what we want.
That game was a bit chuggy as well, so actually maybe getting it running better would actually make it more enjoyable. That was one of my criticisms of that game. It ran a bit like trash.
Yeah.
So maybe now that it's running better, it'll be even better still because I still liked it. I thought it was still good.
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree with that. So, in terms of new additions, it's only Torchlight 3 really this week. So, let's just get rolling right into that. What have you made of Torchlight 3 so far?
I played the first act of Torchlight 3, which in a busier week, it wouldn't have even gotten that. So Torchlight 3 should actually be quite grateful it's coming out at the time it is. This is a Diablo clone. Let's be honest, it's just Diablo. If you've played Diablo, you've played Torchlight. I've not played any of the earlier iterations of the series. I know it has a big fan base. Some people really like this take on the series. It seems to be a bit lighter-hearted, a bit lighter in tone than your Diablo kind of dungeon crawler. So I get the appeal there. And it plays perfectly fine. It plays so similarly. You pick your class, you pick your attributes and your relics, and you attribute them, and you go off and you slaughter a load of goblins. There's nothing wrong with that. It's very comfort food gaming. It's perfectly adequate. I know you've actually finished it in 2 days because you've apparently just existed and lived in the dungeon for the past 2 days. So how's your time with it been?
Yeah, to be honest, my opinion on this didn't change much after about the first hour. It's like you said, it's a Diablo 3 clone. So, think Diablo 3, think Minecraft Dungeons to an extent. There's a bit more depth in this than your Minecraft Dungeons mind. This has got, character classes with skill trees. And if anything, there's too many different skills to pick for each character. There's like about 5 different windows of skills. And if you're anything like me, you'll end up just focusing on one window because you can't be bothered trying to figure out how to merge all the different types of stuff together. So yeah, there's a lot of options for people who want them. I think the character classes are quite fun in this as well. I quite like the ideas they've gone for. Like I played as like a robot that has a soul of a man in it, and then he's got like a cannon on his chest, and there's a man who summons a train apparently and just gets a train to come and destroy stuff. Like it's some fun kind of wacky nonsense. Like Diablo 3 sticks it a bit more kind of, I don't know, Diablo plays it pretty safe with its characters, to be honest. It's very typical fantasy stuff like warriors and paladins and things. So nice to have a bunch of weird, crazy characters in this. And yeah, you just play through 15 hours of kind of the same game from the first hour. You go into a new area, you slaughter loads of enemies, a big boss enemy will show up, you'll kill that one, and then you'll go back to town and they'll say, right, go to the next map along in the world and do the same thing again. And that's kind of fine. That's how all these games are. Like I don't want to be too critical of that because it is just the layout of a dungeon crawler, but it does feel a bit safe. Like there's not a ton of exciting structured like changes beyond just that. Just going to the next map and beating everything up.
Yeah, I think part of the problem I've got with this game is I've kind of ruined it for myself. I picked potentially the most boring character, which was the archer, because I will always pick an archer in this type of game because I like a good ranged attack, and I know it basically beats the game for you because nobody can go near you and you just damage from afar. And I also paired it up with a relic which gets blood off the characters you defeat to top up your health potions at all times. So I'm just walking around full potions, nobody near me. I can literally just hack away, and it doesn't even matter. I know I beat this game because I could get through entire boss fights now without being hit because my block and evade stats are high enough to evade anything that comes at me. And I've just got an endless tonic of potions just filling up all the time. But, it's not bad. I think it's perfectly fine. The environments are pretty good. It looks pretty all right for a top-down crawler. It's about as exciting as it's going to get. It's fairly generic. It's the same sort of environments you'd expect, but they're well crafted. They're fun enough. The map is easy to explore. There's lots of loot. I don't really see the points of the loot because I can't find anything to spend my money on. I have no idea what I'm meant to be spending my money on.
Yeah, that's a really weird issue with this game. So yeah, you get tons of loot, if anything, too much loot, frankly. And then you can either sell that. You can sell that for like a small amount of gold, but the only thing you can spend the gold on really is buying more potions if you run out. And you can go to this woman who, it's like a gambling shop, and you pick a type of clothing you want, and you just get a random. It might be a good item, it might be a bad item, but you just get a random item based on that type of clothing. And it's just a really kind of unsatisfying way to like spend your money. I mean, there's a weapon shop, but he doesn't sell anything. Like for the whole game, he didn't sell anything to me at all. The only thing he would sell me is he'd let me buy back the things I sold to him. So I don't know why he exists. Like I played the whole game, he never had any stock. So that's very weird in its own right. I don't know if it's because I was playing the single player mode. Maybe if you connect online, there's different stuff in the shop daily or something, but I saw nothing in that shop at all. So yeah, the money's a bit pointless, and like I said, I think there's actually too much loot. Like my inventory gets full up after about 20 minutes of playing, and I only bother looking through the loot to see if any of it's better than what I've got on when my inventory gets full. Because if I do it after everything I pick up, the game would be about 5 times as long. So yeah, as much as I enjoy picking up some treasure, it did get a bit overkill in this game.
Yeah, they have a horrible habit as well of just lobbing low tier loot at you, like no matter where you are in the game, it'll just lob absolute trash at you. And you just feel, oh, why? Like, I'm not going to use it at this point. I've been playing for 10 hours. I definitely don't need like a level 3 sword at this point. I'm just going to bin it. But I guess, the cool little thing about this game is you get a little companion, which I quite like. Yeah. You can pick a little friend to bring along with you, like a weird thing like a white alpaca, or you can have like a really vicious cat, which I like going around with a really vicious cat. That amuses me to no end, who can like spawn ghost dogs to kill people. And that's pretty fun. I kind of like good. That. That's decent. The cat can carry more loot. You can just transfer it over to the cat, who's apparently this tiny little creature can hold 15 pieces of armor, which I just love. I love the visual of that in my head.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, I imagine this might be more fun with 4 players playing online. It's a real shame this doesn't have local co-op, and I have no idea why it doesn't. This boggles my mind because you could easily do this game in local, and there's no reason for it not to be. In many ways, it'd make it more fun playing with a friend or with a partner to, smash through some stuff. It's not particularly heavy thinking. It's easy to pick up and play. And yet it forces you online if you want to do that. And I think that's a bit of a shame, a bit of a missed opportunity. I also think, I don't know how you found it, but this game does not want to explain anything to you. Fortunately, I've played these games, so I know the systems enough to fuddle my way through and eventually pick it up. But this game has all the hallmarks of something that was in early access and has been gradually built upon to the point where it's forgotten that new players might be playing it. It's just throws you straight in and goes, well, off you go. You must know how to play this because you've been playing it for 3 years. And I'm like, no, Torchlight 3. I haven't been playing you for 3 years. You could explain something to me.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I picked, like I said, I picked this robot character, and he has these skills that build up. They build up like a heat bar, and then you can vent that heat to turn it into steam. And different attacks use the steam and the heat stuff. And like the game doesn't bother telling you any of this. I just kind of had to figure it out in the first half an hour. But then that's only one of my robot skill trees. And like some of the other ones, they use completely different types of energy that I literally just ignored because I was like, you know what, I'm happy with my cannon. Like I didn't even bother using. There was one that uses like relic energy, and I was like, I'm not even going to look into it. I'm fine with my cannon. I'm not bothered about what that is. They also do a really stupid thing where every character class has, rather than having an ability to actually dodge things in this game or jump out of the way, every character has a skill that you can use, which is like a skill that makes you move or dodge somewhere, but they're just buried in the middle of these really complex skill trees. So like I was getting quite frustrated because I was a ranged fighter as well. I was using this cannon and things were getting right near me and I had no idea how to dodge. And then I looked online and like just some like level 10 skill in a tree I wasn't even getting skills in. I needed to put a point in one of those skills that then lets me like barge through stuff to run away. And it's just that's so unclear, as you said. It's like they're assuming you've been playing this for ages. And that is a bit of a shame because with a bit more of a tutorial, I think you'd be more encouraged to try more kind of unique character builds on this. Whereas for me, to be honest, I found some skills that worked for me in the first maybe 3 hours. And then I just put all my points into those skills to make them more powerful because that was just easier than trying to figure out how to merge all these different trees into a useful character. It's a bit of a shame, really.
Yeah, I had a similar thing actually because my character also did not have a dodge button. And I was going through the whole game thinking, surely there's some form of dodge. Like they can't have no dodge. That would be madness. And anyway, I figured it out. I realized what it was. And I attribute it to a button, as you can do easily in the skills menu. But it keeps undoing it. Randomly, I end up in a boss fight and I go to press the trigger and I go, oh, it's taken it off again. To the point where I'm so sick of putting it back on, I just leave it. I just don't dodge now. I just got a big sword. Bumped money into my block and evade stats, and it doesn't matter anyway because nobody can touch me. My miss is untouchable, essentially. So it's a weird little thing, and at times that frustration and not explaining what you can do with this game to actually let you get more out of it holds it back. It's a weird thing. It's trying so hard to appease dungeon crawling fans that it makes no concessions to the idea that you might be new to this genre, despite the fact it's probably a good place to start. This is better than Minecraft Dungeons for actual, this is more what a dungeon crawler is. Minecraft Dungeons was just press X till you won game.
Sure.
It was for children, and that's fine. I don't angry about that. That it is what it is. But Torchlight 3 is a legitimate good starting point for dungeon crawling fans. If you want to get into it, if you want to try this genre out, if you want to see if you like it, a game like this is pretty good for that. But it doesn't make those concessions to bring new fans in. And I just find that an odd maneuver, especially since this is the first one, which is, I believe the earlier games were almost free to play, weren't they? You used to buy things within them. You could download stuff and then you'd go on. This one is a fully priced single player game. So this is very much the birthing of this series as a serious competitor to Diablo. And I don't really feel like it's trying to actually take full advantage of that.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about Torchlight 2, but Torchlight 1 was a Xbox Live Arcade game. And it was very, it was a dungeon crawler, and it was it wasn't free to play, but it was much smaller in scope, because obviously Xbox Live Arcade titles typically were back then. So I think this is the first time they've really blown it up to a bigger scope. But as you said, yeah, they've just not thought through the idea that they need to teach people anything, which is a bit of a shame. And I also think as well, because if you compare this to Diablo 3, which frankly is actually a much better jumping off point for new dungeon crawler players, because what Diablo 3 does is, as you level up, it actually unlocks new moves. So like you'll get to like level 6 and it's like, right now if you want to, you can do this new attack, or you can just keep your old attacks. You unlock new moves as you get through about the first 30 levels of leveling up a character, and you can choose whether or not to map them to a button. Obviously you're not going to map 30 different moves to buttons on a console, so you just kind of pick and choose which ones you want. And I think that's better because you level up and you can try these things. Whereas in Torchlight 3, it feels like there's no incentive for me to try out different moves beyond the stuff I've already chose. I'm not going to go into a new skill tree and think I'll put like 5 points into this move and see if it's any good. Like I'm just going to use the ones that I've already got comfortable with. And then it doesn't help as well that the leveling up of those moves is actually really quite dull. Like you level up a skill and it's like, right, well now it does 5% more damage. And it's just like, well, all right. Like that, it makes me feel like I have to do it because I don't want to do 5% less damage, but also that's such a boring use of a skill point to get 5% more damage or like make a cooldown 5% faster. So yeah, compared to Diablo, which just gives you all the moves and then you actually just build up your character through equipment in Diablo. You don't have to put points in a tree. And I don't know, I think that's a better structure. This is fine. They're obviously going for more of a big RPG, almost MMORPG kind of feel with the skill tree. And that's fine to try, but yeah, I don't know. It just needs a bit more work.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Diablo 3, despite being a much more hardcore dungeon crawler, is a lot more accessible because it eases you into its systems, which they become ridiculously deep by the time you get started. I mean, they become almost mind-bogglingly confusing, but you've been eased into it so you can follow it along. It's fine. Torchlight doesn't do that. I'm also frustrated that, as you say, you don't get no new bells and whistles come with each upgrade on the skill tree. As you mentioned, it's just damage increases more than anything. Yeah. So you're kind of forced with the decision that you can see what's going to get unlocked at level 20. And you think, well, that looks like a cool move. So why would I put all my points into this thing when I could just put 111 and then start just bumping up the best one at the end? But by the time you get to level 20, not really using these skills, you've just learned to play the game without them. You don't need them anymore. You've got weapons that can do damage on their own. You've probably got your legendary stat, your own internal stats boosted up to take advantage of them as well as your relics. And by the time you've got to that point, it's kind of passed you by and you're just going to keep slashing away with your sword until everything's dead. And it almost becomes like Minecraft Dungeons. It just becomes a generic, very simple dungeon crawler, which is a shame because there's some nice boss designs. There's some cool enemies. Yeah. There's sounds okay. Story is there. It's definitely there.
There's a story, happening. As someone who finished the story, I can confirm there was a story. And when you finish the story, some credits rolled. That happened. We saved the day, maybe. I don't know. But maybe. Yeah, there definitely was a story. But as you said, I mean, the point of these dungeon crawlers really is you just mash through a load of enemies. You go through an area, you mash through some enemies, and then the next act is in a slightly different setting. Like in this one, the second act's like a swamp, the third act is like this robot place, and you just have a few changes in scenery, and you beat the crap out of loads of enemies. And Torchlight 3 does let you do that. It doesn't do a whole lot wrong. It just also doesn't really do anything to set itself out as a different game from things that already exist.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got a home you can renovate, a base you can build up to make your own little perfect camp. I'm never going to even go anywhere near that.
Oh,
I'm
no,
just going to ignore the hell out of it. It doesn't really seem to have any great benefits either, apart from the fact you get a luck tree you can feed all your crap weapons to increase your luck stat. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, because if anyone doesn't know about like growing trees, you just chuck a load of armor and swords at it, and it gets bigger. That's how trees work. So.
It keeps getting bigger. That's what you do on that one. But yeah, I mean, I guess you could come back to this game after the end game too. There's a big tough dungeon you can crawl through by. I've read about this where there's higher, tougher enemies to beat through, where you probably would have to master the skills, and that's pretty cool. But you do have to play 20 hours of Torchlight 3 to get to that point.
Yeah,
and you could build it up.
Yeah, just a quick one on that. Actually, I've gave that a quick go, and I'm not going to stick with it because we have to beat everything in Game Pass. So this has been ticked off on the sheet for me now. So that's that. But I had a look at that dungeon thing, and it's actually quite cool. Yeah, you basically, it like just generates dungeons, but you have to like pick a card that you want to choose from when you go in, and that basically puts an extra challenge on the dungeon, but also gives you a unique reward. So it's quite cool. Like it could be stuff as simple as, the enemies have more health or they do more damage, or it can be stuff like there was one where it said that every minute one of my skills would be unusable for that minute, and then like it would change every minute. So, I mean, obviously that'd be super frustrating, but it's unique and it's fun, and it looks like a good mode. Like if you finish the game and you wanted to just keep beating the crap out of some monsters, I could see people enjoying that. So it's got content. It's got enough content to keep dungeon crawler fans happy, and that's something. I just think that the only real target audience I see for this is someone who's played and loved Diablo 3, but has also played it to death, and they need something new to play now. Like obviously it's in Game Pass, so that will bring in a new audience as well, because you'd have to pay for Diablo 3, but yeah, this is just one for dungeon crawler fans who have run out of dungeon crawlers to play. Frankly, I don't see it appealing to many other people. Like I think if you like Diablo 3, give this a go, definitely. If you liked Minecraft Dungeons, you could try this, but it could be a bit out of your depth, potentially, depending on your experience and kind of how much time you want to commit to learning its systems.
Yeah, that's pretty fair, I think. I mean, I find Torchlight 3 to be a perfectly serviceable game. There's no wrong with it. I had an element of trepidation going in that I was going to hate it, but I played this for about 8 hours without a break, and it was fine. I didn't hate that. I was perfectly happy. I just zoned out and smashed X until everything disappeared, and that's okay. Sometimes that's fine. I'll probably go back to finish the final 2 acts whilst we've got a bit of a downtime in Game Pass leaving soon. But I'm not a massive lover of this genre, so it's never going to be a big seller for me, but I'd probably angle this towards like a 6. I don't think it's too bad. I think it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I landed on a 6 for this. I think, it's enjoyable to play. Like you're not going to be bored playing it if you like this kind of game. As you said, you get in a bit of a trance of it. You just spend hours just mashing away at the enemies, and it's fun. I came away from it happy with my time spent on it. So yeah, 6 out of 10. It's fine, and I think it's good as well to see it come to Game Pass, because this game got criminally underplayed. Like I know we're only saying it's a 6 out of 10, but what we tend to do on this show when a game comes to Game Pass is we try and find out as much information as we can on how long it's going to take us, because we have to beat everything. And there's almost no information about this game online because seemingly nobody played it. So that's crazy. Like we don't even see that for small indie games. So I'm glad it's here so people can try it, because it deserves better than what it seems to have got, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not. It doesn't deserve to be lost to the annals of time. It's perfectly okay, and maybe Torchlight 4 will be even better if it ever exists, which it probably won't.
It probably won't.
Okay, so this is usually the section where we talk about our leaving soon titles, but we don't seem to have any. Andrew, I'm going to fire over to you to do a live update check of the Xbox website to see if there are any Leaving Soon games. I'm going to check the app. You do the website.
Sounds good.
Let's do this live on air. See what happens.
It's an exciting time for everyone here. I'm checking the website now. Just reloading the page. Here we go.
Booting up the app.
Here we are, Leaving Soon, and there is none. There's no games. So so these will be coming very soon. This is pretty typical for anyone who's new to the show. They get the last batch of games left on the 16th of January. We're recording on the 17th. You usually hear about the next batch of games within 48 hours of the last set leaving. It's typically a bit slower on weekends, and we record on Sundays, so that's probably why we don't have them now. I'd fully expect these to be revealed on Monday the 18th, which is when the show will be going out. So, yeah, if you want to follow us on Twitter, we're on Twitter at Beat the Sheet, and we will be getting a graphic up with those Leaving Soon games in as soon as we know them. So that's probably your best bet to find out about them as soon as we know. But yeah, at the moment there's nothing there, I'm afraid. So there's nothing we can report on right now.
If you do hear a piercing cry around, midday on Monday or Tuesday, as, I don't know, the Bard's Tale 4 has been dropped into Leaving Soon, then you'll know that they're available. If there's like some form of sonic boom over Walthamstow in London and scientists can't figure out what it was, well, that was me just crying. But yeah, it will come soon. Probably come when they announce the Tuesday new edition. So we'll look forward to that. Well, I'm not looking forward to it. I dread it. But what can we do? Okay, so in lieu of Leaving Soon, we've got a special edition of What Are We Playing This Week? And this week, we've been playing Battlefield. Just endless Battlefield. Because
just a whole lot of Battlefield. Yeah,
because
quite weird, actually. Yeah, just going to say it's quite weird because we didn't really communicate on our plans to just play a bunch of Battlefield, but then independently we've both played completely separate Battlefield games all week, so it's worked out quite well.
It's just the lure of the 5 to 6 hour campaign run times.
Yeah,
like we're just drawn in like flies to Manure, to anything which just gives the stench of quick completion. So of course we drove to Battlefield in floods because neither of us bizarrely have really ever played many Battlefield games. Partly because, for me, it's mainly I've always seen it as a multiplayer-focused series, and it very much is. So I've just never bought them, because why would I pay £50 for something I'm going to play no campaign of? But, now that they're in EA Play, and EA Play is in Game Pass, you've got all the Battlefield games to go through and have a good playthrough. So we've been doing that. So shall we kick off with the earliest one we've played this week, which I played, which is Battlefield 3.
I mean,
okay.
Before we get to that, I just want to say it'll be interesting for me and you over the next kind of half day before we put the show out to see if I have the guts to make the episode title a quote that you just said, which is the stench of quick completion. So we'll see if that ends up on the title or not.
I think spoiler alert, it probably is. Okay, so awful human beings. Okay, so Battlefield 3. Battlefield 3 was a 2011 Xbox 360 game. So we're in old FPS territory here. The genre, you wouldn't think it would have jumped on massively in 10 years, but it very much has. A lot of the gameplay idiosyncrasies of this genre have become a lot more less bullshit in the 10 years since Battlefield 3. To put a very simple term on it. But this game is basically the Russians have done a bad again. Because of course it is. Of course it is. It's a campaign and an FPS. It's a modern set FPS, which means it's going to be in the Middle East and the Russians are going to be doing something. This is the plot to basically every modern FPS, certainly in the 360 era, before people realized it was becoming a trope and tried to pivot away from it. And it plays fine. It's okay. But I struggle to find any reason to convincingly tell somebody that they should play Battlefield 3 in 2021 because they absolutely shouldn't. In any sense, it's dated horrifically. Despite the fact this was meant to be a looker when it came out, it very much is not now. The shooting itself sounds fantastic. Sound design in Battlefield games is top tier stuff.
Yeah,
those guns make me feel like I'm in a war zone and make me worried my neighbors will call the cops because I am brutally shooting my girlfriend, seemingly repeatedly for 6 hours. Such is the authenticity of the gunshot. Sometimes I turn around to check she's not dead. This is how bad this is how good it sounds, gosh darn it.
Yeah.
But the actual shooting itself, I don't like the shooting in Battlefield games. It feels a bit robotic. It doesn't quite have a clunk to it, which I like, which sounds contradictory, but it feels very gamey rather than very realistic, which when paired with the sound design, which is so realistic, has this kind of like disconnect for me between actually pressing the trigger and hearing brutal devastation and murder. And I feel no sensation of brutal devastation and murder, which is what I'm craving in an FPS. I mean, have you played any of the old 360 Battlefields?
I did play one of them. It was one of the Bad Company games, which I've entirely forgot. So I can't really go too much into that one. But I do agree with you about the I think first-person shooters are a really weird genre because I feel like nobody noticed them becoming more advanced over the last 10 or 15 years so much. But it's when you go back, you realize just how much those kind of incremental changes every year, like an annual Call of Duty release, for example, each one feels the same, but then you go back about 7 or 8 releases and it's a different world. Like they really have just slowly got a lot more refined, and it really does stand out when you play something from this era, or in my case, from a few weeks ago when you play 2006's Black on original Xbox. Another game we would never recommend anyone played.
Yeah, I mean, Battlefield 3, this is straight. It tells its story in the same way a Call of Duty Black Ops game did. I can't remember which one. Maybe you can. It's where you're debriefing your superiors after you've done everything, and it's told in flashbacks. One Call of Duty game did this, and I'm certain it did it before 2011. Yeah, I think it was the first Black Ops.
Another game that did that, although not very well, was 2006 Black on original Xbox. Yeah, so that's very much been done a million times.
So you could see where I'm coming from when I say that this game was really scraping the barrel of what has everybody else done. But the thing that kind of has always set apart Battlefield games, certainly in the 360 era, was these sections where you weren't just shooting. You'd get to pilot a plane, you'd get to pilot a ship or a boat or a car or something. Call of Duty did this a little bit, but a lot of the times it was just by dropping bombs on civilians from like planes or something.
Yeah,
it very rarely put you in the cockpit of a fighter jet or in the wheel of a tank. You'd usually be just manning the turret. Whereas Battlefield does do that, and at times that variety actually does make the game quite fun. Some of it plays better than others. I'm terrible at flight combat games, so naturally I hated that. But the tank bit was fun. I didn't mind shooting people up in a tank across these wide open desert spaces. That's pretty fun. Decent enough time. The story being told by flashback means that it makes no sense at any given time. That he's talking about a nuclear threat against New York, and everybody is just going, well, can you tell us in great detail what has happened so far? It's not, let's get to the point. It's no, I need you to tell me exactly what happened, including flashbacks to characters you didn't even meet to tell their stories just bizarrely out of nowhere. Because now they're going to tell you a story and they're going to thread it all together. And they get to the end of it and they just go, yeah, we're going to leave you here. And that's it. They just leave you there. Just like, we're going to escape now because of course you do. It's a video game. Yeah. But it kind of just does that all the way through. It just builds up these ridiculous scenarios where you've got to get out of stupid situations and do the best. It tries to vary up its gameplay, and at times it's quite successful. Stealth is terrible because, of course, stealth is terrible in an FPS. Stealth sections were terrible in FPSs in the 360 days. Yeah. They've not gotten a lot better now, but that's why they just don't do them anymore. Back in those days, they had to. It was expected. It's got quick time events because, of course, it does.
Nice.
No reason for them. Their boss battle, the final boss, is essentially just quick time events. That's all it is. You don't even do anything. You just beat this guy up with these really weebly baby girl punches that this big tough Marine throws. Like, seriously, this guy has no connect on his punch. Like, this thing does no damage. I could take a punch from this guy, and he's meant to be saving the world. I can't even save myself. So, it's a little bit bizarre, but it's perfectly playable. I didn't hate it, but it confirmed to me what I always thought, that Battlefield is not as good as Call of Duty, at least in single-player campaigns.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense. And I guess another thing that's worth noting on this game is with you having, bad internet, famously bad internet, this thing is somehow 28 gig for
Yeah.
a Xbox 360 title, which is insane. I know we have much bigger games now, but 360 games typically were about 6 or 7 gig. So 28 is ludicrous for a game like this.
I don't understand where it came from either. Like, it's not like world beating stuff.
Yeah.
Like, how many discs did this come on? Did it come on like 8 discs or something? Like, what the hell?
They must have been on a few, surely. It's crazy.
But yeah, Battlefield 3, not a terrible time, not a particularly great game. Wouldn't recommend going back to it. I give it a 5. Okay. But I think that's reasonable enough. We could roll straight into my next game, which would be Battlefield 4, but I think we'll give you a chance to talk about your next game, which is Battlefield 5 or Battlefield V, as it prefers to be called.
Yeah, apparently you can't call this one 5, even though it came after 4. It's Battlefield V. So yeah, okay then. So yeah, from 2011 360 games to the latest Battlefield here with Battlefield V. Yeah, this game it's pretty good actually. I quite enjoyed this. It doesn't necessarily have a traditional single player campaign. It's more, they've been doing this thing with the latest couple of releases where they have these war stories, which are like mini campaigns. They're completely separate, and there's 4 of them, and each one is like 1 to 2 hours long, which, I'm all for. That adds up to a pretty short playthrough, which we always like. So that's definitely a good thing. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. I do like it. They sort of separate them up quite well to be very different. So, for example, in Battlefield V, you've got one campaign you're playing is these 2 like Spec Ops British soldiers, and they're in Africa, and they're like blowing things up. That one was fine. I thought it was okay, but it was a bit sort of paint by numbers FPS action. And then the next one, at this point, I was a bit like, ugh, I'm not sure I'm feeling this. The next one was basically just some kind of James Bond adventure. It was brilliant. Like, you're playing as this this Norwegian teenager, and her mother had been captured by the Germans in like a Norwegian castle. And it's like, it's nighttime, and she's got throwing knives, and she's got skis, and you're just skiing down these snowy mountains, being stealthy and like throwing knives at people and stuff. And the stealth in this actually doesn't suck, for one, which is amazing. It's not amazing, and it has that problem a lot of FPS games have, where as soon as you get spotted, like, everyone in the entire world knows where you are exactly, even if only one man saw you, so it's got its issues, but yeah, like I really enjoyed that campaign. It was really fun. It's also got quite a cool mechanic in one of its later levels where you're in this like freezing cold area, and you've got to run between fires to kind of keep yourself warm. So you're sneaking around killing people, but then also like there's this element of trying to keep warm in it, and that was pretty fun. It only does that for about 10 minutes, which is about as long as it needed before it outstayed its welcome, of course, but it's still pretty cool. And then, yeah, so those are the first 2 campaigns. Third one was a bit more traditional Battlefield. This was, you were playing as like French colonials, and they were liberating France. Typical Battlefield war stuff. That was, as you'd expect it to be. And then the final one's quite interesting, because you play as a German tank unit, basically on the brink of defeat in Germany. And I don't know, it's just an interesting angle. You don't get a lot of that from these games. It's like, basically they know they're defeated. They've lost. A lot of the German troops are starting to desert, and then you're seeing them like hung up with signs on them saying they were deserters. And like, I mean, it's miserable, don't get me wrong, but it's quite a, for what it is, which is a 1-hour story in a action movie franchise like Battlefield. I actually thought it was quite a kind of short, harrowing tale of these people who just, they're defeated and they've lost, but it's been so ingrained in a lot of their soldiers that they absolutely cannot give up and quit, that, at this point, if anything, they're doing more damage to themselves than the enemy are doing to them. And it's just, I don't know, it's good stuff. Like, I like the variation between those things. You're going from James Bond missions to something as depressing as that last campaign. So yeah, I quite like this approach, this kind of mini campaign approach. I think, considering Battlefield, as we covered with your game, has typically kind of sucked when it's tried to tell a big action movie style story. Like, if this is the best way they feel to kind of get some single player content out there, then I'm happy with it. Like, I'd like to see a full campaign at the level of quality of these mini campaigns, but this is fine too. It's nice to be able to jump to completely different types of gameplay between them all. So yeah, I was a big fan of this. I quite liked it. I thought the gunplay felt a lot better than any Battlefield I've played before as well. I had a similar issue to you with some of the Battlefields I've played. I've only played a couple of the more recent ones. I played Hardline, which is one where you're a policeman for some reason, and Battlefield has this weird thing where it's not quite as arcadey as Call of Duty, but it doesn't feel as heavy and kind of serious as other games in maybe like a Wolfenstein, for example. I think the gunplay in Wolfenstein is really heavy, and it's stuck in the middle of those two things a bit. Whereas Battlefield V actually feels like it's leaned even more to the arcadey side, but at least it's picked an angle now. It's fast paced and it's quite run and gun, but at least it's something now, because it always did feel a bit muddled. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this one. I came out giving this a 7 out of 10. I was considering 8, but you can't get away from the fact that these aren't fully fledged campaigns. There's kind of 4 or 5 hours of content there, and that's maybe not quite enough.
Yeah, I really like the idea of doing these war stories. They introduced it in Battlefield 1, which is one of the few Battlefield games I'd played before starting my, newfound Battlefield Run the series, which I've decided to suddenly do. And I like the idea because it does give you that variation. DICE quite clearly cannot tell a sustained story for 5 or 6 hours, but even the most scatterbrained of idiots can usually keep a story contained for an hour. And that seems to be what they've decided to do. And it's not a bad idea. I actually think there's merit to this. I think that more games of this genre could actually think about foregoing a bland cinema ripping action movie nonsense from the 80s, which has been done a million times. Yeah. Why not do more tiny little stories? You can't tell a tale of living as a German in the final hours of the war over 7 hours, because totally, you're going to have to shoot a few people and win occasionally. And by that point, you're practically gaining ground and turning the war back in your favor. Yeah, so exactly. You've got to keep losing. But over an hour, you can tell that story. You can actually do that. No FPS can have weird fire sections for 7 hours. You've got to introduce it for a little bit. And usually that's tonally a nonsense. And that's what these games do. They become a tonal mismatch where they try to go over different styles of gameplay without really needing to. Why not just segment it out, just bring it in that way? So I'm all on board with this idea. Yeah. I actually think they've stumbled upon something which is quite clever. And I wouldn't be surprised if Call of Duty ends up maybe thinking of doing a similar thing with this one day in the future. This idea of doing mini campaigns, because I think there's something in it.
No, I agree. I'd be on board for that. And another thing as well that I did like about Battlefield V is it was actually quite refreshing to get back to World War II era weapons. I like that when you play a modern FPS or even a futuristic FPS, like when some of the Call of Duties went futuristic, it almost feels like the guns are too good. You take a shot and there's no recoil and there's no sway to it. It just, you can just aim and shoot and it'll be perfect. It's quite nice going back to weapons where, if you pick up a World War II sniper rifle, you take a shot and you have to take a while to put another bullet in, and there's a big recoil to it. And I don't know, I just find that more satisfying to play. If you feel more empowered by actually landing shots and taking people out in games with older weaponry. So yeah, enjoyed that too.
Okay, so I'll move on to the other Battlefield game I played this week, because apparently I just became obsessed with the series. I played Battlefield 4. Now, Battlefield 4 came out in 2013, so it's fairly old, but it was the series' debut on next-gen hardware. So this is an Xbox One and PlayStation 4 game. So visually, it holds up. It actually looks pretty good. DICE games usually look pretty good. They've got a good engine. Usually the destruction elements are pretty hot. And this game has all of that. It's all included, all there for your perusal and enjoyment. All that's fine. I will say that Battlefield 4's campaign, though, is absolute trash. Oh my God, it's awful. It's absolutely appalling. So the story here, in a enjoyable step away from the Middle East, is centered on China. Good idea for a start to not be in Iraq for once in my gosh darn lifetime. This is about a Chinese leader who has a uprising led by somebody else who looks like he could gain power, so he tries to assassinate him and shunt him off to the side. And now he starts just invading the world. I don't really know what his logic is on that point, but I don't think it really matters. We just go with it. Anyway, you go just to try to save this dude, basically. That's the point. Not a bad setup for a game. Takes you to Singapore, Shanghai, different areas you wouldn't normally have an FPS campaign in. So visually, it's different and it looks better. It looks fresh and enjoyable. And I was actually thinking, yeah, this is going to be pretty good. I'm looking forward to this. There was a moment, though, about 10 minutes into the game when I was controlling my character, and all of a sudden the game said, okay, so what you need to do is take out your tactical goggles and have a look and scout for enemies. And I thought, okay, that's not very hardcore FPS run and gun fun, but okay, whatever. I'm sure I'll only have to do it occasionally. And then it says, what you then can do is you can tag enemies by pressing the RB button, and your AI teammates will shoot at them for you. And I thought, all right, okay, fine, I guess I'll direct the fire. What the game didn't mention is that if you don't tag an enemy, the AI will do literally nothing. It will just sit there and do fuck all. It will do naff all. To the point where people will run past them to start shooting at me, and they will just sit there, just waiting for me to tag them. So I thought, okay, that's really annoying. But I guess I'll just have to embrace the tag system. So I tagged them all. Turns out they can't kill anybody. They can't. They kill no one. Nobody you tag will die. They will shoot at them. They'll shoot, but nobody dies. For whatever reason, they will not kill anybody. So all of a sudden, you've got AI teammates who you have to direct and control, who are forever saying, give me orders, Wrecker. And I'm like, okay, we'll shoot that dude. And they shoot at him, and he doesn't die, so I have to do it. And it gets to the point where you're going through these maps, saddled with these useless morons who will do nothing to help you. The amount of times I was sat in a good place of vantage, surrounded by my AI teammates, trying to pick people off, because they weren't going to bloody do it, so I had to do everything. And then all of a sudden, I'm dead because there's a shotgun dude just shooting at me while my AI teammate just stands behind him going, should I shoot at him, Becca? And I'm like, you should.
Wow.
What kind of war is this? Like, can you imagine going to war? They just refuse to shoot somebody unless I give them the definite affirmative that they have to. How about on 6 separate occasions on Battlefield 4, I walked into a room to see 2 people staring at each other with guns pointed. The enemy pointed at my AI guy and my AI guy pointing at him, and no one doing anything. Just sat still. I just came in and was like, do you want me to kill him, mate? Because you're not going to do it. So this is fine in the early levels where there's manageable amounts of enemies and you can just do it yourself. You barely even notice because you're just picking them off yourself and it's fine. Later on, when they're throwing grenades and rocket launchers and everybody at you, this becomes infuriating because there's nobody picking up any slack for you. Nobody's doing anything. You're winning the war on your own. It's just you.
Do they even draw any attention? Like, are they even useful as a distraction, or are they just in the way anyway?
Not really. They draw a little bit of fire. They might be able to draw somebody out of cover, which is about as much use as they can potentially be. But by drawing them out of cover, they just get closer to enemy lines, and they won't shoot them if they get to within a meter of me. They'll just leave them there. God. So if I'm doing something else, I'm just drawing them in to kill me from a different angle. It's maddening. I couldn't quite believe what was happening. It's the stupidest AI I've seen in my life. I mean, the problem is the game has this high score chasing thing where the more people you kill and the better you kill them, the more points you get, the more medals you get. So, okay, fine, whatever. But apparently the only way to get a gold medal is to kill everybody in the map. Yeah. And that will happen because nobody else dies unless you press the trigger. Occasionally you get a message saying squad kill, and I just don't believe it. I don't believe they killed anybody. I refuse to believe it happened. It's mind-bogglingly frustrating. At times I was just screaming. Just literally, my neighbors must have been like, what is wrong with this man? Why is he screaming at the top of his blood? What are you doing, Irish? Kill him. Just screaming this at times. And I couldn't quite believe it. And what makes it more frustrating is I'm the leader, and they keep bossing me about. They keep going, open that door, Wrecker. I'm like, I'm literally your commanding officer. You open the door.
Yeah, you literally won't move a muscle without my command, and you're telling me what to do.
Like, I'm being bossed about to do everything. I'm giving the orders. I wouldn't mind if I was a grunt. At least I could go, well, that's commanding officers for you. Everyone's bossing me about, doing that all, taking half the credit. It's just, I've never known anything like it. I felt like an underappreciated worker by the time I was done.
I mean, that honestly, that does sound dreadful. Like I don't know what I was expecting because I saw you had these games on the sheet. I saw the scores for them, so I knew something bad had happened. But to bring a game out like an FPS in 2013 and have AI that's that bad. I mean, we've had FPS games where you controlled squads a decade earlier, like things like the Brothers in Arms series or Rainbow Six. Like there's games that have set a precedent for how to do that, and the first bullet point is probably have them actually do anything, like do literally anything at all. Don't just stand still. Like that's absolutely outrageous. I mean, so Battlefield V actually does have the system where you use binoculars and you tag people, but it's all just for you. Like you tag them so you can see them on the map and you can see where they are. Like, and when you have AI with you in that game, they act like normal people in that, they won't start a firefight, but if someone shoots at you, they're going to go, they're going to fight because of course they are. I don't understand. It sounds like you're describing a game that was made in like 1997. I don't know.
Well, that's it. FPS is used to have the problem where you could just sit back and your AI teammates would kill everybody for you. Like that was a viable option on harder difficulties. If you just sat back and did nothing, there'd only be a few people you'd have to kill from cover. Yeah. Job done. By the time I came to the end of Battlefield 4, I had to do every fight from a sniping vantage point. Every single fight, because I couldn't go in and shoot people. Because I knew that somebody would just kill me from behind because nobody is ever watching my flank. I have to be all eyes at all times, aware of where everybody is. And it's not helped by the fact this is a really glitchy game. Characters get stuck in things, guns float in the air. There's tanks which seem to have sunken into the earth, which you can enter. And you can move the turret about, but nothing fires. And yet if you get shot, you just die because the tank doesn't exist, but yet you think it does.
Wow.
And this happens all the time. The actual vehicular combat is dreadful. The tanks just blow up in 2 hits. Just 2 hits and it's boom. And this is just maddening when you're stuck trying to beat 3 or 4 of them, to the point where it just got easier, again, to sit back and just snipe. All I ever did, I basically played Sniper Elite 4 by the time I finished this game. It's just mind-bogglingly dumb. And the story was nonsense and it went nowhere. And the mission structure was boring. And the environments were frustrating. But it all comes back to those ridiculously stupid AI teammates. And I just couldn't stand them. I just got so angry, so mad with them, that I nearly gave this a 3. I pivoted it to a 4. And that was a kindness in many ways, because I did not enjoy my time with this. Most people say this game takes about 4 hours to beat. The YouTube walkthroughs are saying 4 hours, 3.5 hours, pretty quick. It took me 8 hours to beat this game because I literally couldn't do it without anybody else. I had to do it on my own. And I couldn't think clock with me that I needed to alter my playstyle so heavily until right at the end when I finally clicked that I just can't play this like an FPS the way I'm going to have fun. I have to play it like an idiot.
That's wow. That they hurt my soul when you said 8 hours. That's absolutely horrific.
The stench of quick completion was not on Battlefield 4 by the time it finished.
There was no stench there. You can,
there was a lot of stench. But the stench I wanted.
You can kind of see like with because obviously after Battlefield 4, they went on to do Battlefield Hardline, which was the police game, and then it was Battlefield 1 in World War One, and then V in World War Two. Like, I almost feel like they must have known when they finished Battlefield 4. They were like, right, we've reached the end of the line with this. Like, we need to just do a reboot at this point and throw this away because that sounds dreadful.
It's proper trash. I would not recommend Battlefield 4. You play it though, because I can't wait to see how you go through. I mean, you're better at video games than me, so you'll blitz through it quicker. But I just want you to experience the uselessness of the AI teammates, just to see them pointing guns at each other, because it just warms your heart to see such truces formed on the battlefield.
It
out
sounds
of nowhere.
it sounds like the game's made up of like just like kids kind of playing a war game, and like those two have just got bored and they're just having a chat, and like you're taking the game really seriously and you're like, get back to the fight and you're on other sides. What are you doing? But yeah, I will absolutely play it. But yeah, I guess wrapping up our Battlefield 3, 4, and V thoughts then. I mean, I think it's safe to say probably don't play 3, definitely don't play 4.
Oh God, don't play 4.
And do play V, but only if you can stomach the download, because I think it's 91 gig or 100 gig. It's a monster. So only if you can bear with that download, give V a go. Or if you want to play the online, because V actually is good online too. So there you go. There's some What Are We Playing Battlefield edition.
Oh, if you want what you really should do, just play a Call of Duty game. They are better. I hate to say it, but they are. COD is better than Battlefield. I'm going to plant my flag firmly in the dirt. It is much more enjoyable.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Although, as I said, I do like the direction V's going. I think, they're, and with Battlefield 1 as well. I think, they've stopped trying to fight toe to door with Call of Duty now, and they're doing their own thing, and that's really good. So more of that, definitely. But in general, yeah, Call of Duty does put out the more enjoyable single player content. All right, then. So to wrap up the show this week, we have quite a lot of news, actually. And I mean, the big story this week has to be the reveal that EA's Force chokehold on the Star Wars franchise is it's coming to an end. It's actually over, which is I mean, I'm surprised by how early we've heard about this. Is the main thing, because it's worth noting this deal is not done until 2023. So EA are the only people who can make Star Wars games for 2 more years. And yet, clearly, Disney and Lucasfilm Games, which is the new label that these games are going to be under, are clearly so done with EA that 2 years in advance, they've already said, right, here's some other companies, they're making Star Wars games. You'll have those in 2 years' time. We're not sticking with this EA thing anymore. And I mean, that in itself is quite a damning indictment of how we have dealt with the Star Wars franchise over the last decade. Because, I could have seen a world where maybe they stopped it in 2022 or 2023, but to pull the plug right now and just get it done with is pretty incredible.
I mean, it's good news because EA wasn't particularly pumping out top tier Star Wars titles over the course of the license. I'm really excited. Who's going to be getting the opportunity to work with this? Is it a hotshot new studio? Maybe an old favorite? I mean, I just believe that they're going to give it to somebody who can really turn out something unique and different for the Star Wars games. Who's going to give it that unique shine, which will stand out from anything else in their library?
Well, so the first game that was announced as a part of this new, not partnership, but this new opening up of the Star Wars franchise is a story-driven open world Star Wars game, which, I mean, that sounds good to me.
That sounds good. Yeah, I'd play that. Yeah. Who's making it?
That's a Ubisoft game, Josh.
For fuck's sake.
I mean, right, okay, quick caveat here. This is going to be made by Massive Entertainment, who they're in charge of the Division series, which it's not something I've got into because I can't be bothered with these games as a service kind of deals, but I actually would rather it be Massive Entertainment than one of the Assassin's Creed, Immortal Phoenix Rising, Far Cry development studios that all just make the exact same game. At least the Division isn't that game. So that's something. But yeah, I mean, look, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because Ubisoft are a huge company. They have huge selling games like the ones I just mentioned, but they're not an exciting studio for us to hear about. And I mean, I'm nowhere near as negative on Ubisoft as you are, and even I'm a bit like, ugh, I feel like this is just going to be, I don't know. It's just going to be something we've played before, isn't it? But with a Star Wars like coat of paint on it.
It's going to be a Ubisoft game, let's be honest, just with lightsabers. And that might be fine. There might be enough novelty in the fact that I haven't played a Star Wars version of that game that it could carry me through. Maybe it will. Maybe it'll be fun. But basically, all we've given Ubisoft the license to do here is create yet another version of the same game to slot in alongside all their other versions of the exact same game they've been selling for the best part of 10 years now. And although it has been done by the Division guys, and that has a slight divergence from the formula, its divergence comes from the fact it's multiplayer focused. Yeah. I think if you drive it back into the open world wheelhouse, they're just going to make an Ubisoft game. Like, of course they are. They're owned by Ubisoft. They all have to read it out like 1984 in the morning. We shall not deviate from these norms. It's just what they have to do. They have a 5-second hate where they just scream at the concept of unique game design. They hate the whole thing. It's just what it is.
Just every morning they have to watch a video of just Eve Guillermo be like, thou shalt climb towers to unlock the map. Thou shalt defeat multiple outposts that are all the same as the last one.
I mean, we all know it's going to happen, don't we? Like, we all know we're going to be climbing up those Star Wars outposts. It's just what it's going to be.
It's just, I don't know. I struggle with this one. And even like, see, they've said it's going to be story driven. And in at least the new kind of, in the Disney era of Star Wars, they kind of everything that goes out there is canonical in the new kind of canon that they've made. But you're going to really, really struggle to make a game as a service game that can fit all of the constraints they put on Star Wars lore. Like I just don't see how that's going to work, because you can't have a Star Wars. Well, unless they do it in a different era, you can't put this game in the era of Star Wars that all of the films are based on and have 10,000 players all be Jedi. So, what like either they're going to put in a totally different era. They might go like Old Republic or something, or I mean, there's a big drive at the moment for this new High Republic era, which they're doing books and comics on, and that's like 200 years before the films, and there's loads of Jedi there. So maybe they can get around it that way, but I don't know. The word story driven and then the words massive entertainment who make the Division, they don't merge properly with me. I don't see how that's gonna work, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to a world where more people get to take a shot at Star Wars games, even if this one isn't necessarily the perfect one for me. I
mean, the notion of story driven Star Wars, it sounds exciting until you realize that across films, books, comics, games, I'd say 95% of Star Wars movies and stories just suck balls. Like, they're just really stupid. They're not particularly clever. I don't mind. I like Star Wars. I love the things, but nobody watches Star Wars for the sodding stories. It's crap. Like, they make no narrative sense. Did you watch the last trilogy? It was all over the place narrative.
I actually, because I'm as big a Star Wars fan as you can get in many ways, and yet I came out of seeing Rise of Skywalker I went to a midnight showing for it, and it was the only, I stopped consuming any Star Wars content for about 15 months afterwards because I hated it so much. It killed me. But nonetheless, everyone loves the world of Star Wars. So
it's the world. It's the characters and everything you can do with this franchise. That's what makes it exciting. Yeah. And those are all the things Ubisoft are terrible at. So they don't make unique and exciting worlds. It's not like Rockstar, which just pack their worlds full of incredible things to do. Ubisoft worlds are famously bland and identical. So I worry that they're just going to make a Star Wars game which is really bland. But maybe they won't. Maybe it'll be great. I live in hope. I'm glad it's away from EA, who are apparently going to continue to make games anyway.
But, that's true, But
we'll see what happens. Maybe indie studios will be given a shot to do something small and weird with Star Wars. Maybe somebody can make a Mandalorian game. That could be fun. Something a little bit off the beaten track, which doesn't have the high expectation that comes with being part of an Ubisoft or an EA where it has to recoup all of the money or it's a colossal failure. It'd be nice to skip that opportunity.
I think that's what I'd like to see from it, because, as you said, obviously there's the Ubisoft thing, and then EA are going to be still making games. So, we will get a Battlefront 3 most likely. We'll almost certainly get a Fallen Order 2. But the thing I want to see is stuff from maybe smaller studios. I'd quite like to see some people have a go with Star Wars in a more kind of retro aesthetic, give like the Shovel Knight devs a retro, super Star Wars style, retro, retro side scroller or something, do something cool with that. You can get loads of good chiptune versions of the Star Wars music in there, and that'd be good fun. I'd always, above all else, want them to just somehow collect the people who made the original Rogue Squadron games and make a new Rogue Squadron, because I love that series. That's the perfect blend of arcadey kind of flight combat. So I would like more of that as well. But in general, this just has to be good news, right? It's, if you like the EA games, you're going to keep getting them, but now there's more options as well. So very excited to see, hopefully, just a larger variety of types of games. It's like similar to how, we were talking at the start of the show about WandaVision and how that's just doing wacky stuff of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I just want to see the Star Wars equivalent of that. Just someone just do something completely off the wall. Just give some Devolver published studio Star Wars and go do your worst, do whatever. Just, it'd be good fun.
Give Nintendo the Star Wars license to make an exclusive game for Switch. Just give them it and just see what they come up with. It'll be brilliant. It would be brilliant, but
undoubtedly, yeah. Wow.
Who knows? It'll never happen, but maybe one day we can live in hope.
Yep, absolutely. Right then. Well, let's move on to not necessarily moving away from Lucasfilm Games, but moving away from Star Wars. So the initial announcement of Lucasfilm Games coming back was actually done with Indiana Jones rather than Star Wars. And we got a trailer for a new Indiana Jones game, which is being made at Bethesda, or more specifically being made by Machine Games, who made the two recent fantastic Wolfenstein games. So yeah, famous.
And the one recent bad one, but we won't talk about that.
But nonetheless, that was kind of a bit of a side project anyway. And, it's, So yeah, famous Nazi hating studio Machine Games takes on Indiana Jones and his also hatred of Nazis. So yeah, I mean, this, it's really cool.
It's a match made in heaven.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this could be something really, really special, actually. I'm quite looking forward to this. I just don't know what to make of it, because I think this can't just be an Uncharted game, right? That's too simple. It can't just be Tomb Raider and Uncharted. They have to have their own spin on it. And in my head, that spin would be to take some of the focus off the combat compared to those games, because Indiana Jones isn't some super soldier. But yeah, I don't know. What do you make of this? What do you think we'll get?
I'd just make Uncharted with Indiana Jones. Basically, you could try and do it in a different way. You could say, "Oh, we're going to do more archaeology," but Indiana Jones never did any archaeology, and he's an archaeologist in any of the films. I mean, you've got the template. The template is there. The fact that this game hasn't been made for the past 20 years boggles my mind, because whilst we've been waiting for this to come out, Tomb Raider, to a lesser extent, and certainly Uncharted, has perfected this formula. Why not just ape on it? Why not just go, let's make an Uncharted with the Indiana Jones license? Why the heck not? I'd play it.
There is something quite funny actually, isn't it? About like how those games basically, like Tomb Raider and Uncharted, just took Indiana Jones and ran with it. And now it's like Indiana Jones is coming back going, I'll have that back. Thank you very much. I'm home now.
That's it. Usually I'd be like, it's a little bit derivative of what's there, but those games are just Indiana Jones, but with different characters.
Yeah.
So why can't Indy come back and just do the game he should have always had? And there's not enough games like Uncharted in the world. I'd rather play more weird, platformy, puzzle-solving, combat-y games. There's not enough of them, in my opinion. Too many games can't balance those elements very well.
Yeah.
So I say just make it. Just make Uncharted Indiana Jones. Why the heck not?
That's fair. I mean, I think it's got to be something basically like that. But I don't know. I don't want to see a dramatic shift in the kind of direction of the game from that. But maybe just a slightly lesser focus on the combat to bring in a bit more puzzle solving maybe would be nice. Because I don't know. There's just something about, hiding behind some cover as Indiana Jones taking out like 89 Nazis with a pistol. It just feels a bit off. I don't know.
I don't expect a pistol. I expect to be playing this entire game with a whip.
Yeah, you got to be whipping him, right?
Playing Castlevania. I want the Castlevania elements in my Indiana Jones game. If you're going to make Uncharted, give me a little bit of Simon Belmont in there as well. That's what I want. Right, I want those two. I want Nathan Drake and Simon Belmont to have some hot, steamy action and create this Indiana Jones game made by Machine Games. I'm excited for this. I like the studio. I love what they did with Wolfenstein. I love how they hate Nazis. Good for them. Wish more people did. Strange thing to say, but here we are. I guess the interesting thing is, because it is Bethesda, will it be Xbox exclusive? That is the question. Will it be that?
Wow, threw me a bit there. That's, welcome to 2021, everyone. That's the big question, right? Because this deal has obviously been put together before Bethesda are officially a part of Microsoft, because that's happening in, I think it's like the middle of this year that's happening. So right now, like Phil Spencer and Xbox like they aren't actually running Bethesda and making these decisions. So, this is all from Bethesda's side, whatever agreements are getting signed. I'm sure Bethesda are doing these, they're making these deals under the pretense of obviously being a part of Microsoft very soon. And I'm sure there's a lot of discussions going between the two sides, but there's nothing really stopping this from being a multi-platform game. I also think as well, because it's a licensed property, I could see there being some pull from the kind of Lucasfilm Disney side to maybe want this in as many hands as possible as well. So, we'll see. But I mean, if nothing else, I do believe you'll get this day one on Game Pass for free. So that's something that's pretty much going to happen either way. So there will be some value to Xbox players in that respect. But I don't know. I'm leaning more towards multi-platform for this one than full on exclusive, I think.
I'd be amazed if it was exclusive. Part of me would be amazed if it came to Game Pass day one. Because do I see the greedy bastards at Lucasfilm just giving something away to a section of an audience? I don't know, but
I think
we'll
it has to, right?
Like, I don't know if they have any choice, but
yeah. I mean, it would be a bad look for Microsoft because right now they've said first party studio games come into Game Pass day one. So unless something changes between now and whenever this is out, because I think this will be a good 2 or 3 years away, probably 2.
Yeah.
Maybe someone will change, but right now you have to assume you're getting this in Game Pass. So that's a win. Definitely looking forward to playing it. And yeah, just nice to see Uncharted back after it disappeared a few years ago. So
where'd it go? Naughty Dog back. Fantastic. Make an Xbox game. Bloody hell. Now it'd be interesting to see what this means for the Wolfenstein franchise as well. Do Machine Games have the staff to do 2 big projects at once? Or will Wolfenstein be moving over to a different dev studio while they focus on this? That'll be interesting to see as well. I don't know if I'd be massively problematic with that because, Wolfenstein Youngblood kind of sucked. It's not great. I can't even beat that game. I beat like 2 hours of it and I'm like, that'll do. So I'm hoping they can refine that franchise a bit.
I believe from what I saw, I'm pretty sure Youngblood was I think it was a smaller offshoot of the Machine Games team. And also it was like a bit of a kind of experiment in co-op focused gameplay, wasn't it? And stuff. And I don't know. Yeah, I agree. Like it's nowhere near the quality of the first 2, but I mean, as good as the Wolfenstein games are, and I really have enjoyed them, I'm not massively clamoring for another one right now. I actually think I'd be fine if Machine Games made this Indiana Jones game and then came back to Wolfenstein in like 2025 or something. I think it's fine to give it a bit of a rest at this point. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, Microsoft, once they get this Bethesda acquisition in, they own a whole lot of properties and a whole lot of studios. So if they see a good fit for it, maybe it'll end up somewhere else. But yeah, for the time being, I'm happy to see the return of Uncharted via Indiana Jones.
Absolutely.
Right then, so moving on then, we've got a couple of Nintendo stories this week, and let's open that up with the trailer for Bowser's Fury, the kind of standalone add-on to the Super Mario 3D World release, which is coming out next month. Now, I mean, it's been a strange one, this the way they've filtered out information about Bowser's Fury. I found it quite weird because obviously they said they re-released Mario 3D World and they just bolted Bowser's Fury on the title and nobody knew anything about it other than this one kind of creepy image of like a rainy scene with Mario in and he looked pretty sad. And then, and then this came along and we got a 2-minute trailer this week showing off what this is. And it's kind of like they just made a Mario Odyssey expansion and went, here you go. Yeah. It's attached to Mario 3D World for no apparent reason. And I'm really excited about this, Josh, because I love Mario Odyssey. So give me some open world Mario action any time of day. Even if it's a bit short, it's fine. I just very much am excited to play this one.
Oh, this looks great. I'm absolutely hyped for this. I'd have bought Super Mario 3D World again anyway, because I love that game. It's fantastic. If you're giving me extra content, basically more Mario Odyssey, but with the cat suit, fantastic. I am all in on that. Just give me it. Bowser's huge. He's kind of hot. Everybody loves it. I'm all in for this. I'm like, give me it. Bowser Jr.'s my buddy. I'm happy with him being my buddy. I think he's cool. Let's do this. He's all right. He gets a bad rep. So let's do it. I can't wait to play this. Day one for this.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the look of this. I just think like it's so like this is the most aggressive and angry we've seen Bowser. And I mean, I know it's called Bowser's Fury, so maybe you could see it coming, but like Bowser is not messing around in this trailer at all. Like, by the looks of it, you're just going to be going around this open world area, and there's some shines to collect, which are obviously now cat shines because everything in Mario 3D World is cats. And it seems like just at certain points he's just going to be like, right, you're just going along having a nice time, like da, 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 and then suddenly Bowser's like, right, I'm pissed now, and he just comes out of the water and just starts fucking everything up. And like, I'm well on board for sudden angry Bowser trying to just ruin everything. That's great. That just seems it's so Nintendo to just be like, you know what, screw it. We're going to re-release Mario 3D World with this completely different, separate, I'm guessing 2 to 3 hour, just mad piece of content that has nothing to do with Mario 3D World, but it looks great. Like, you just can never really predict what they're going to do next, and it's one of the reasons I love them.
Yeah, you got to love the fact that sometimes they're lazy and they just put in the most bare bones port possible. And sometimes they go and make Bowser big and hot. And, that's what I want in life, big, hot, and angry. Yep. So, yeah, give me it. Give me some of that. Love the look of this.
Absolutely. Completely agree. Cannot wait for this one. Honestly, I'll probably buy this day one, play the Bowser's Fury thing, and then
not play anymore.
I'll chip away at 3D World level by level over the course of like half a decade again. But it's all about the Bowser's Fury really. So yeah, that looks great. And another Nintendo release we got some information on this week was new Pokémon Snap has finally got a release date, and we're going to be getting this one on April 30th. So not too long to wait, only a few months. I'm real excited, Josh. I can't wait for Pokemon Snap. I adored the original. Like, this is one of those games where, April 30th could be a time when we need to beat about 70 hours of Game Pass that week, and I am still going to be playing a few hours of Pokemon Snap no matter what. I'm very excited. This just looks great.
Oh, this just looks fantastic. I remember, I forgot this was even happening. I was just sat at work. I was trying to find out, see if I could determine if I could legally call Army Hammer a cannibal. And I was thinking about it, and all of a sudden on my phone popped up the message that new Pokemon Snap's coming on April 30th. And I forgot about Hammer and his fetishes. And I went straight to mine, which is taking photos of Pokemon after I've lobbed food at them. Yeah. And I'm so excited to play this game. It's such a joy on the N64. And I just can't believe it's taken this long to make a Pokemon Snap sequel. People love this game. Why have they waited so long? But that means my hype is just through the roof to play this. I was going to get the game vouchers, I think I mentioned in the past episode, for 3D World and to buy Hyrule Warriors or whatever it's called now, Age of Calamity. Balls off that. I'm going to get 3D World and Pokemon Snap on April 30th because, those two are just my life at the moment. I can't wait to play those games.
Yeah, that's I'm absolutely the same. I'm definitely picking both of those up. And as you know, as good as Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is, because I've really enjoyed my kind of 10 hours I've spent on it so far. I imagine that you might struggle to pick that up at the moment because we're only a month away from Persona 5's version of basically Dynasty Warriors. So, that's going to throw a spanner in the works as well, because you better believe I'll be playing that as soon as it comes out.
No, that's basically a new Persona game, That's like Persona game.
Yeah.
It plays almost the same, but it has these stupid Hyrule Warriors. So, oh my God, there's some good games coming out this year.
There is, isn't there? Yeah.
Nier Replicant's coming out. That's going to be hot fire. We got these 2 Nintendo properties. We got sodding everything's coming. Breath of the Wild 2 might be out at the end of the year. If you hug and pray all your wishes into the sky, it could happen. Who knows?
We still got Ratchet and Clank coming soon. You would assume. Yeah. They said launch window, so that should be pretty soon. It's actually a really
Returnal
good.
Looks pretty good.
It does,
Returnal looks
by Housemarque. Yeah,
the medium's out in 10 days. I love the look of the medium. Give me that crap.
There it is.
Loving it.
It's a good time for games right now. It really is. If Game Pass keeps being quiet like this with just the odd release every week, that's fine. I got tons to play. I'm happy enough. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, that's most of the news. Let's just briefly touch on this last thing because it's bloody brilliant. So the last thing we've got this week is a quote from visionary director Josef Fares
and friend of the show. Friend of the show. Big fan
of the show, but
big fan.
Yeah, but creator of Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, A Way Out. What's his new game called again? It Takes Two.
It Takes Two.
Yeah, that looks great.
It Takes Two, baby.
So so this is just a quote from Josef Fares was doing an interview about basically just about his recent career and the fact that, he's kind of had to make this co-op based genre up from scratch because nobody was making these kind of games and stuff. And he was basically mid-sentence talking about how it's going to be coming to PS5 and Xbox Series consoles. And he just went mad. Just in the middle of the sentence, he just got real angry about how stupid the Xbox names are. And how do you want to run this, Josh? Do you want me to just read it? What should we do?
Oh, let's just read it. I'll read it. I want to read it. I'm going to be, for 5 seconds, I'll be visionary director Josef Fares. Finally, my dream has come true. So,
all right then. Yeah. So
visionary director Josef Fares said, and I quote, "That's a fucking confusing name. What the fuck's going on with Microsoft? They're losing it, man. What the fuck is going on? Like Series S, X, next. I mean, who knows this? Come on, madness. Call it the Microsoft box and that's it. I don't know. It's total fucking mess. Trust me, even them, they're confused in their offices. What is this X, S? I don't know. What the fuck?" That was what a visionary director Josef Fares said. I think I nailed his cadence pretty well as well.
Yeah, so. I like that. That was pretty good. But yeah, he literally just, in the middle of saying it was coming to those consoles, dropped that in. And then next sentence, he was just like, "So yeah, we'll be releasing on Xbox." He's completely just back to the normal interview. And I mean, that's fantastic. From the man that brought you shouting "fuck the Oscars" at the Game Awards a few years ago.
Fuck the Oscars, man.
Yeah. So I mean, let's be honest, he's not wrong, is he? It's not a good naming convention at all. But
I don't know if the Microsoft box is better.
It's not better. No, it's not better.
Well, at the same time, it's funnier. So I'm tempted by it.
I'd like to know what you would then call the two versions of it. like which one's the Microsoft box and what's the other one? Like I don't know. But yeah, let's just go for that. I hope Microsoft send him one that they've carved Microsoft box into. They just rename it and send him it. But
surely you'd call it the Microsoft big box, little box. Like, surely that's what you'd call it if you was going to do it. I think that's what visionary director Josef Fares would have to say about it, being the visionary that he is to invent co-op gameplay. Nobody had thought of it before you, Joseph. Yep. Nobody thought about it. Friend of the show, visionary director Josef Fares. Nobody had thought about it.
My favorite thing about how, visionary director Josef Fares created co-op games is that he thinks he did it by first making a game that was not co-op, but was actually a single player playing as both the characters. like an almost alarmingly single player game. A game that was too single player for its own good was the first game in his trilogy of co-op games. Just a vision.
Him.
Absolute visionary. Love to
Never
see it.
Never change. Fuck the Oscars.
Oh, if only we could get him on the show. Maybe if It Takes Two comes to Game Pass, we'll make a big plug to try and get Josef Fares on the show. Be amazing.
Just insult him for an hour. I know he's a friend of the show, but he's not going to be for long after he listens to us just rip into him on a seemingly monthly basis. Did he hear our Brothers A Tale of Two Sons review? We slagged it off to high heaven.
Yeah, but there was that episode where you said that he'd be in the calendar for sexy game developers. So,
to be fair, he would. I got Rob there.
He very easily
I'm still
would,
waiting on you to give me the green light to do our episode where we rank the sexiest game developers.
Maybe that could be this year's Christmas special. We'll see how it goes. Right. Anyway, so I think that's probably enough talking about visionary director Josef Fares and enough content for this week. So yeah, until next time, if you want to catch us on social media, we are on Twitter at Beat the Sheet. As I said, that's a great place for you to hear about the Leaving Soon games as soon as they're announced. So check us out there. If you want to drop us an email, you can find us at beatthesheetpodcast@gmail.com. And if you could leave us a review on your podcast platform, that'd be really helpful. It's really good for us getting the word out about the show. So we'd much appreciate if you could do that. So yeah, until next time, I am Andy Wood, and I am at 64% completed on the sheet now. I've managed to gain another percent this week. So happy with that.
And my name is Josh Stevenson, and I have reached the heady heights of 53% completion of the sheet and 100% arousal for Big Angry Bowser.
Amazing. All right then. So yeah, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you again next week.
Goodbye.